Shabbat Shalom. Good morning. Today I have a little video. I think this is going to be a pretty fun presentation. Well, I don't suppose it's fun like we're going to, but I mean in the sense of delight in his word. I mean, it's just, to me, sometimes I get awestruck. It's amazing when I peer into the Torah, whether I'm looking, at the letters, or if I'm looking at Mashiach, or if I'm looking at, the whole history of salvation, whatever it is, it's awe-inspiring. So, but by that, now let me get back to the business here. I'm titling this called Hidden Figures. I just watched that movie. It is a great movie. And so I'm not going to go into it, but look it up on Google, or, what do? Do a web search on something and find Hidden Figures. But what really struck me, because this is and I apologize for my markers. It's like the concept that math doesn't lie. Like when we say trust the science, hey, listen, math is the science ultimately that you can trust. Okay. And in the movie, it's really fascinating because at one point they have to solve, I'm not going to give it this huge problem, and it's a problem, and they have to solve it and they have to get the math right. And one of the star of the show, this girl who's a math whiz, and there's a name for it, a polymath, something, who has this insane math brain. She goes to this old textbook and pulls out this ancient, like, mathematical formula. Because see, they keep saying they're looking for new math. Well, she finally realizes in her brain, no, nothing new under the sun. There's got to be old math. Lo and behold, she does this whole thing. She uses that formula and she gets the correct results. See, people, that is awesome. That is our Torah. All right. Now I'm going to show you. Okay. So this week's Parsha, a Parsha is a great way to study the Bible according to the way it's broken down into weekly readings, and all Orthodox Jews and all believers all over the world who are into this do this every Saturday. So we're all on the same page. But today, embedded within Beshalach, which is the Parsha today, is one of the most powerful prayers that has given the most powerful miracle that the world is still talking about, called the parting of the Red Sea. Okay, and I want to show you there's a formula that Moshe used. Now, I'm not saying I completely understand it, but I'll tell you what, I put my absolute Orthodox stamp of approval on it. This is deep, this is Orthodox, this works, this is what, the works that Yeshua did and greater works. Okay, there is a level that you can get to. And you have to do it through the already laid foundation. And you can't cheat. You can't try to go up, through another way to manipulate God. Okay, but all that being said, I have a PowerPoint. Let's just start at the very beginning to build into what I'm saying. So here is, let's see, I'm going to do a little slideshow thing here. And hi. And this is what I have said this repeatedly. I say this again, and especially if you're new to my channel, I teach according to Pards, a Jewish exegesis. I teach on the Sod level, which is the deep hidden, something that takes a lot of thinking ability, a lot of study, a lot of Torah study. This is what the sages did to get to this level of understanding. But lo and behold, we're finding out. Torah sages are confirming today, just like they did hundreds and thousands of years ago with science today. It's all an incredible code. All right. It's a holographic universe. And these are just frequencies that are found and they're not even in color, different shapes that are there in nature, in our DNA, in an atom, which, believe me, an atom is a cell and is a city. So it's very interesting, the progression. They're all sort of talking about the same thing. So let's talk about this, because what I'm introducing people to, and now I have really ramped up my ministry in the sense that I'm starting, I have a whole package seminar now, where I could take a group of people, just soon with ladies, and bring them into, I want to bring people's minds into a Hebraic way of thinking, which is different. Christianity truly is, it's a Greek kind of religion thinking system today a lot. It has much true Hebraic understanding, the Messiah, but we have to go back to the Hebraic way, and it's different. There's a way you got to train your mind. And Paul uses these words when he's talking. He says, train your mind, equip your mind, meditate on the word. Okay. And what you will find out is that sacred geometry and the Hebrew letters are the visual and structural language and blueprint, a pictograph, if you will, that is capable of producing the universes in which we live, move, and explore on an ever repeating loop. See, this is what we're finding, and this is what has always been said. Ancient spirituality will completely agree with true science, and God will get all the glory because he's always been there. It's been hidden. He works with hidden figures. I think it's awesome, okay? And it's all about this great dance of this perfectly melding. It is a symphony of numbers and frequencies and colors and sounds and forms and patterns. The universe is amazing, people. Absolutely amazing, and on all of its different levels. So we can take the words that are used, let's just say in the Zohar, which is the Jewish text that this is kept. It is my opinion, and soon to be I'll give much more evidence, that this knowledge in the Zohar really is the teachings of Yeshua to his disciples. This is with the keys to the kingdom of how to unlock the power of God. And it has been preserved for us. So in the reunification of all Israel, where do you think we're going to go for that knowledge? It has been hidden deep within Judah, these hidden figures. They have kept us for us because they've kept the language. Okay, so let's go here to what we're dealing with. Okay, again, 22 Hebrew letters. And that's why I said they're not hard to learn. I put them around me all the time that are manipulated. See, it's archetype. Just think science, what we see in quantum physics. Think what I'm telling you. Take my word for it until you can see it for yourself. That in the concept of the Torah is this concept that the 20 Hebrew letters are manipulated like bits of clay into chains that are arranged into complementary parallels and other shapes and sequences. One big divine code of the cosmos. This is very similar to scientific descriptions of the activity which takes place within the cells of living things. Scientists use the language metaphor to describe these chemicals and their activities, like a language metaphor, because the same thing, you have to explain this thing using symbols. Lengths of DNA and the genes which reside there are referred to as genetic sentences, and their chemical components are referred to as words and letters. Okay, and then ultimately there are 22 amino acid letters in the chemical alphabet of life. You think that's an accident? Let's just have awe and wonder over the Father. He is so not confused, okay? So the 22 Hebrew letters is the most spiritual essence of creation. It is, when Yah spoke, that's what he used. He had letters that formed words, that had sentences, that had chains, linked chains to them, just like our DNA does. And if a baby can unfurl, we've seen this for thousands of years, and why can't Yahweh Elohim do that as he births us really moment by moment, breath by breath, in a very similar process? But I want to show you some other, there's so many, what is called correspondence, confirming witnesses to this concept, all right? Because in one of the major works of this type of theology, this understanding is that there are three mothers. See, they try to contain this understanding. You have to learn the code words, what they mean. There's three mothers, 7 doubles, and 12 simple letters. Three mother letters, which is Aleph, Aleph, Mem, and Shin. Okay, and there are 7 double letters, and then there's 12 simple letters, and all those together add 22, right? Okay, and then on the scientific side, why would they have the same breakdown? I took the same breakdown for punctuation groups, with a group, hydrophobic amino acids, did I say that right? And hydrophobic amino what are we dealing with here? Acids. Okay, so 3, 7, and 12, that is such a breakdown. Those are letters that have like 12 tribes. I mean, these things have deep meaning going on many, many levels. So the fact that we're just seeing these great groupings, these seem numbers over and over, because every letter up there is a number. And so when we're getting into and what is being ultimately revealed to us, okay, and on so many different levels. You think of our brain, I mean, this is the head, this is where the action is in terms of origination, right? Different levels of intelligences, because that's what we're talking about. The letters contain different information in circuitry, so they're really bits and waves. They have paths and information, and they are creating circuitry, different levels, and some are more intelligent than others. Different levels of intelligences or fields of consciousness. This is all part and parcel of the same concept, are seen as colors, painting the picture of our lives and realities. And now they know they can see the color in our brain, how this is working out. Look at when you see. Why is it an accident? We can now see electromagnetically our brainwaves, right? In color. Why do we see a rainbow? Something in color. Why do you go to the northern lights? And all of a sudden, because there's no night to obscure the sky, you see this kaleidoscope of lights up there. Something's going on, people. Like there's some circuitry running through this whole thing. Okay. And so, and this gets into many people who have had, whether drug induced or meditation induced or whatever, of seeing the kaleidoscope of colors and patterns and images that are quote unquote out there. All right. The non-physical. So in other words, you know, this whole concept is deeply embedded in our Torah, and it's time for this information. It's time for Ephraim to come out and learn this. It's like manna. It's like grow up and get on the mind of Christ, which means Christos, which is the highest anointing you can get. Get some wisdom and understanding in how you understand Torah. Now, today, and this is what's so interesting, because the Parsha today is, this is exactly where, if you're ever familiar, the Jews get this concept of the 72 names of God, okay? I'm going to show it to you and break it down in detail. How these letters, what's going on. Because people, this is the last frontier. You want to pray with laser bomb, strategic, tactical ability, okay? There is a way, and the Torah is full of examples of people who have done that, all right? Starting with Yeshua, Moshe, Elijah. I mean, these people are not, they know something. Anyways, this comes from Exodus, specifically, 72 names of God are derived from Exodus chapter 14, verses 19 through 21. It's found in the Parsha today, Beshalach, which covers Exodus 13, 17 through chapter 17, 16, okay? Now, what's here is this is right at, and I'm going to show it to you where Moshe parted the Red Sea. This unlocks one of the most powerful and ancient prayers found in the Hebrew text. It is capable of great miracles and powerful manifestations over nature. And that is its record. So let's look a little deeper. So, and I'll give you the verses. Let's read the verses, and then I'll show it to you. You know, this is in the Hebrew, but we'll start with verse 19, verse 20, and verse 21. So let's just quickly read it. So, and get the picture. And the angel of Elohim, the angel of God, who had gone before the camp of Israel, right? Israel withdrew and went behind them, right? Remember, the pillar of cloud also moved from before them and stood behind them. Isn't that interesting? There's so much information right there. But remember, you got the angel of God who withdrew and went behind them, and then you have the pillar of cloud who moved and went behind them. See what I'm trying? Because this might have to get it up, because women, you understand, the women of the light, that when we move, our all body, soul, moves with us. So why wouldn't, as the angel of the Lord moves, the pillar of cloud? See, that represents a part of his power package, so to speak, who he is, okay? So that it came between the camps of Egypt and Israel. Because remember, this is when and to get context, this is when the Pharaoh and all his chariots are rushing down on the escaping Israelites and pinning them at the Red Sea. And either they're going to get killed, drowned, or a miracle. Rock and hard place. So then Moshe, well, it says then the cloud was there in the darkness, but it lit up the night. So all night long, neither camp went near the other. So he like put a wall, a partition. He put a covering, as he said, whatever, with the iron dome that surrounds the people of God. Then Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and all that night, the Lord, which is Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, and that's very important. I can't unpack that whole thing, but Moshe's talking to Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh. I mean, he is on a relationship here level that most of us can only imagine. Drove back the sea with a strong east wind that turned it into dry land. So the waters were divided. Okay. And then you can see it there in the Hebrew, and I have, the verses are marked 19, 20, 21. So now if you want to do this exercise yourself to find out if such a thing is true of what I'm saying, have at it. Okay. But so there's a pictograph going here, mentally, if you can picture it, but there's a lot of moving parts, but I don't want to unpack it on that level. What I just want to show you is because what's interesting, you have to see in verse 21, Moses stretched out his hand. Well, actually, it's not necessarily in here. Moshe was doing something. He was stretching out his hand all night. See, we just kind of gloss over that. What was he doing? I'll tell you what he's doing. Okay, with Aaron. Well, no, that wasn't the same story. This is Moshe on the rock with his staff, so to speak, which is really also kind of coded. But either way, let me get to this. Okay, what you have here in these 3 verses in the Hebrew, you have 3 verses of exactly 72 letters that parallel each other. So it's total 72 letters in the first line, 72 letters, 72 letters. So that's great parallelism, which is very rare in Torah. I want to say it's the only place maybe that they have found it so far, but then again, I don't know if that's really accurate, but it's very rare. Okay. So what our sages did, okay, and I attribute this to the great Sanhedrin, and it might have been lost and found a little bit. I guarantee you Yeshua knew this, Rabbi Akiva knew this, I guarantee you Rabbi Simone Bar Yochai, who is, okay, but either way, you take, in the first row, you take the first letter of each word of the first row, okay? Then in the second row, from the second, you take the last letter of each word of the second row. And in the third row, you take the first letter again of the third row. And again, we have a progression. So if you were to look at, oh, wait a second here. So sorry. If you were to look at, this is one of the names here, Lamed Hey Het. Okay, and you read from right to left. So you have a Lamed is the first letter, the Hey, okay, which is, again, where's the Hey? Up here, it's the 5th letter. You can get to the numbers because every letter is a number. So there's a lot you can do there. We're just going to establish this one, okay, and then there is which is a Het. But in stick form, okay. So how do they get, and there's 72 of these in these little boxes. This is what we're constructing with this formula. Have you ever seen these little 72 names of God charts? Okay, they get that from this formula. That's in Exodus, in our Torah. Okay, now if you were to, so the Lamed comes from the first letter of the first row. The Hey is the last letter of the first word, or I think they start from the left. So they start right to left, and then they take the last letter, which becomes all the middle letters, and then they take the first letter again, they go back in the third row. And there's they get 72. All right. Now, there's again 70 and 72. I mean, again, these frequencies, these repeating frequencies of these numbers is very big. There's a lot of hidden figures or hidden understanding in there too, but let's just go through a couple of these. You have the 70 elders together with Moshe and Aaron, which total 72. So in other words, you have the 70 elders crucial because the storyline is that Moshe and Aaron, and really Moshe, received all this level of understanding from the Father. He gave it to Aaron, and together they taught it to the 70 elders, and they entrusted it to them and said, you are to keep this in a system packaged up for every generation of priests. This is and this is something you be taught on the deep level. Okay, so there are 70 elders together with Moshe and Aaron makes 72. The 70 members of the Sanhedrin plus 2 scribes. Now, listen, the 70 members of the Sanhedrin, there's always been this, I think Knesset might be the word, of elders, the ruling body. So it's like their court, their Supreme Court system of 70 members, that plus 2 scribes, and there's a concept within that there's always somebody bearing witness to what's being said and writing what's going on. So you have, for accountability, you have 70 members of the Sanhedrin plus 2 scribes. Then you have the 70 souls that accompany Jacob down into Egypt. Plus, you have Messiah and Hasatan. In this battle, like we said, the 70 souls, and they're multiple, there's always just like this battle going on between Messiah and Hasatan over these 70 souls, which is now multiplied in all the earth. That's the point. But you got 70 nations. This is a big one. 70. Who are these 70 nations? And trust me, my understanding now, as I become more proficient at thinking Hebraically and understanding parts, nothing to do with literal nations. We're not talking about literal Greeks over there in the land of Greece, or we're not talking about, Frenchmen over in France. Okay, that's really not, we're talking about soul roots from which everybody comes from. Okay, the 70 nations become 72 when Israel and God Elohim are counted. And a good place to understand this much better, read the book of Joshua. Joshua will give you the table of nations. It will tie it all in complete perfect context with how it's spread out, what's happening, and how they kept track, and a lot of good information. I cannot recommend it enough. So then you could go 70 languages, become 72 languages when Hebrew and Aramaic are added. So again, there's something like this totality going on when you have 70, which is a perfect number, 10 decades, 7, which so relates to the whole concept of, this is all taught in what would be known also Hebraically as the tree of life, the understanding of the tree of life, okay? But let me tell you another thing for all of us New Testament believers. Yeshua wore a crown, right? And according to Christian tradition, this was known as the crown of thorns, which was 72 thorns. You can't make this up. If you want to tell me this is some crazy, just a place where chaos got blinded, no. Our Father is so linear, repeatable, dependable. You can count on Torah. So what I just want to say, that's what's going on. And let me give you a couple of other more 72s here. There are 72 types of creatures in the world. Now these 3 I have done because I didn't quite go in and verify this in the scientific community. The other stuff I can't, like 22 amino acids and 22 Hebrew letters. That's a no-brainer. But I don't know if there are 72 types of creatures, but it would, if it's true, all the different types of animals and birds total 72. There are 72 types of vegetation. So that means in every kingdom, in the animal kingdom, in the plant kingdom, in the Adamic kingdom, 70 souls was, okay? And so because all of these were brought into existence through the 72 Hebrew triads, the names of God. Who else is creating? I ask you, I asked, who else is creating except God? Is that right? So here he's named in the sense of, wears many hats. That's why, okay? So in the context, what was going on is when Pharaoh drew near, well, this is what's interesting. So now that we have, remember, you're responsible for what you know. Now that we have this understanding, now that you begin, I hope I've whet your appetite for truly what is in these letters, what is in our Hebraic understanding, what did we possibly miss? Paul's very clear, all right, that we've been grafted into the Hebraic tree, all right, and we got to go back to that. But why did you cry out to me? The Father finally says to Moshe when they're like up against a wall, up against that the Red Sea, which is sort of again where we are today. We're up against a wall. Who can make war with the beast? I sometimes feel that way. Not like I'm going to doom and gloom, I'm going to give up. No, I'm just like, man, this is a beast. How do you fight this thing, Father? Okay, so this is Moshe. Why do you cry unto me? The Father says to Moshe. When Pharaoh drew near, because when Pharaoh drew near, the children of Israel cried out to Elohim, and upon which time Moses also began to pray. This is when remember, all night he prayed. He was doing something. He wasn't just staring out there, waving his, okay? He was in focused meditation. He was the deliverer at that time, okay? So God said to Moses, why do you cry to me? My children have already cried unto me, and I've heard their prayer. And basically Moshe was able to tap into the prayer, the power that was going to part the waters for them. And whether you want to use this spiritually or in your emotional level, or even I think there's times physically where we absolutely do get saved physically from death or harm, whatever. So we have to cry unto the Father. I believe that there's a level of Moshe anointing, so to speak, that is coming upon the children of God. If you apply yourself, if you will enter in, if you will draw near, all right, and if you will quote unquote grow up. I guess that's my to grow up into Christ, where we're not afraid of this. All right, the enemy has done such a good job of trying to just discredit or hide or give a bad whatever to true Jewish spirituality, because everybody thinks, oh, it's New Age, it's occult, it's all these. It's not. It's ours. Let's take any of the practices of the nations, pull it into the house of Elohim, and clean it up. Okay, it's time. So on that note, I hope you have a blessed day. And I do want to say, and I'll put some, if you want more meat from this ministry, if you want more oil in your lamp, go to the electlife.org or the Elect Life on a link tree. I'll put both of them here, and you can find all sorts of ways to access more information, even though it's on the YouTube channel, and even join a membership and more teachings and a meditation. Listen, this is really exciting because we are on the cusp of this. The fact, I have a prayer group of women, and we have been doing this for over 2 years. I got a track record. I'll stand, this works. This is it. Join what I believe is going to be a great move of the Ruach for such a time as this. Shalom, shalom.